Hey guys, welcome back to Big Moose Garage. Today we're going to fix the four-wheel drive on a 98 Dodge 1500. A while back I changed the diaphragm on the front axle, the CAD, and it worked for a couple times and then it quit. So I believe now my switch in the transmission is probably sticking, and also the vacuum lines are old and brittle, and I'm just tired of messing with it. So I have upgraded, and we're going to put in a posi-lok instead. So we're going to do away with the whole system, and for $150 we're going to put this in, and we're going to forget about it. So I've briefly gone over the instructions to see what we needed. I've gotten out my tools here. I have some wire cutters, crimpers, a couple 1/2-inch wrenches, a 3/4 inch wrench, 7/8 step drill, some regular drill bits, Phillips screwdriver, and a 10mm socket and extension. So basically we just got to drill a couple holes and route this cable in, and I'll take you guys along. What we're first going to do, this is right above the gas pedal here. You got these 2 screws. You're supposed to remove this screw on the farthest right here. Then you get your 5/8 drill bit. Drill this hole out. A steel deal under there where that screws to, so that's why that was so hard to drill through. So now that we've done that, we've drilled it out big enough to put this bolt in, and we'll put this bolt and this bracket in, but I'm not going to do that until I drill my other hole in the firewall. I went ahead and took off this front panel here so you could see a little bit better, and plus I couldn't see very good myself. You got to be pretty small to fit underneath this dash. All you have to do to take the panel off, it's just the 2 screws there, and then the panel pulls straight out. There's just clips and all these little holes that hold it in. So what I had to do, as you can see my template in there, they give you a little template you cut out, and you hook it on the top of the throttle up there. It shows you where you hook it. But first what I had to do was cut out the insulation. They tell you to cut a 1-inch hole here towards the bottom, but that would be pretty hard to put your template up. And even in their own directions, I noticed that they first cut a 1-inch hole, and then later in the instructions did this exact thing that I did. So anybody that's doing this, I'd recommend you just cut that whole piece out right there. That way your template can hang. Yeah, we'll get on to drilling this hole. Okay guys, I added a couple tools to my tool list here. I went and got an awl so I can try to scratch this. And then I'm going to try to go back with my punch and try to make a little spot. Actually, I'm just going to use my awl. See if I can. Okay. As you can see, we got a little dent there. Let me go ahead and see if I can drill this hole. So something interesting that I noticed was in the last clip where you see me drilling through the firewall, you'll see my drill bit is actually touching the support where they thicken the firewall to hold the master cylinder. Now in the instructions, it tells you when you hang your template, you'll read right on there to not move the hole too far to the right. You may hit the web brace. on the engine side of the cowl. So actually the way they're explaining this, they have it totally backwards. Also in the directions, it says if you drill too far to the right, you may hit towards the passenger side, you may hit a web support. So actually guys, as you can see, my template was perfectly lined up, dead center in their hole. It's actually touching a web support on the opposite side that they described. So anybody doing this job, keep that in mind. I would actually move a little farther to the right because there's absolutely nothing to hit if you move towards the passenger side. So their instructions are definitely a little confusing with that. But that shouldn't be too big of a deal. What I'll do, I'll just move my hole over a little bit, drill it again. The reason you're drilling an 11/16 hole in the first place is to fit this grommet. So once I move my hole over and drill it bigger, it will eat out the part where it was touching up against that webbing, and everything should work out fine. My grommet in there. You guys might be tempted to drill a smaller hole and leave out the grommet, but it would eventually just saw into your cable and ruin your cable, so I highly suggest putting the grommet in. Alright, let's go ahead and put the inside back together here, and we'll get our cable run. Here. We'll only have one screw, and then we'll have our replacement bolt. Discovered is you actually turn this bracket around like this, which actually seems kind of backwards and like it might be in the way of the gas pedal, but we'll see. Don't forget to put your nut on here, guys. That screws your handle to your bracket. And just feed your thing through the hole there. Now what I'm going to do here, guys, I'm going to take my grommet that I split open, I'm going to put it on here, and then when I feed my cable through, when it's in its final position, I'll just slide the grommet in, pop it in place, and we'll be good to go. Alright, here's our posi-lok cable coming down. I'll end up routing it along the axle here, and that'll probably be the hardest part about this whole thing, is routing this cable. As you can see, the actuator's fairly new. I had to replace these vacuum lines before. So let's pull all that off of there. Unplug our electric connection here for the four-wheel drive sensor. Vent line for the axle. And yeah, guys, we'll just pull this off of here now and swap it out with the other housing and hook our cable up. So as you guys can see, I got the truck up on a ramp on the passenger side. I'm just trying to get some of my axle fluid to flow down, so maybe I won't lose as much. What it looks like, guys, on this other deal, basically they give you a new housing because it looks like they basically switch which side this assembly works from. So instead of it being on the passenger side, it'll now, the cable will come in from the driver's side and operate, and we'll be moving the switch over to the opposite side. Well, not too much gear fluid came out. So we're good to go. Stuff on this original housing you're going to have to reuse. There's a breather on here that we need to take off. They supply a plug if your truck didn't come with an axle breather, but I'm sure that's probably a rare thing. Well, that's already loose. I didn't even loosen it. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, guys, now with this, so this switch won't be used anymore, so I didn't even need to take that out. So this is your switch adapter they give you. They tell you to put RTV on it. So I'm going to put a good bit of RTV on there. So now the instructions said that this piece would screw in hard, but it went in quite easily. So they also tell you to put some RTV on the sensor. But be careful here, guys. You don't want that RTV to get on this ball. If it gets on that ball, then your sensor's not going to work right. So I'm going to keep it up here towards the tops of the threads and off the sensor. Screw that in like so. Okay. Get that good and snug. We'll put our axle breather back on. We're going to give that a little dab of silicone too. Snug that in. Okay, guys, all we have to do is go under. That's when we'll put the shift fork on. I'll kind of show you all that, how it goes together when we get down there. Okay, guys, we got our fork in here. Our electronics are going to point towards the passenger side now. So you want the jog in your fork to come towards the driver's side, like this. So that way when this fork slides back and forth, you have the maximum throw to the left. So all we got to do is get our fork in there, and then we'll come over here. Get our cable. Screw our lock nut down on there a good ways. Now, guys, what you have to do here, you have to feed this rod through this end, and then into your shift fork. All the way in like so. And we'll give this a few turns on here to kind of hold it together while I get my circlips in. Okay. These clips back in. They say to put the very first clip in here, the one that retains the pin. Make sure your clips clip on good, guys. You don't want that coming off in your axle. And next we'll do the second clip right next to it. Okay, and then guys, you can see the last slot right there. It's a really tight fit. As you guys can probably tell, it's getting dark. Started this project pretty late in the day, so hopefully I can get it finished up before I lose all my light. Okay guys, all my circlips are in. Now we need to thread this on. And actually I need to put some blue RTV on here before we thread it in. Get some blue RTV on there. And they tell you to thread this in about 1/2 inch. Now guys, you can also see that I've put a jack under here, and I've jacked this up just barely enough to turn the tire. And what I want to do up here is push my collar to the driver's side and turn this tire. Did you see how it slid over? That's the 4-wheel drive locking. So we're going to lock that in there. And then we're going to go up and we're going to push the button and pull our cable out and see if we want this. We want the inner circlip to touch the housing. If it does not touch the housing when we pull the cable out, we have to adjust it here. Okay guys, we got our cable pulled out all the way, and as you can probably see, we have just a little bit of space between our... It should be right about there. We'll give her one more turn. And yeah. Okay guys, our clip touches against the housing. I don't know if you can see or not. So now when we... I'm just going to put this up here as a test fit. It's in 4-wheel drive. The cable's in 4-wheel drive. So this should go right in. See if I can get you guys some light here. This fork should fit right in the groove on that collar. And everything should line up if it's right. So we'll stick this in the groove. Right like that. As you can see, all my bolt holes line up, so everything should be good. So then what you do once you get it like that is you'll put this nut down. This is the lock nut. I'm not going to finalize this lock nut until I make sure everything works, but it should. And I'm going to throw a couple bolts in here just to halfway hold it. I'm going to take it back apart to put my gasket in and everything. I just want to check and make sure it disengages from four-wheel drive. Housing just on there for a dry fit. Right now, as you can see, the four-wheel drive is locked. Other tires on the ground, everything's locked. Go push that button in and shove that cable in. As you can see, with the cable released, we're in two-wheel drive again. So everything should be good. I'll pull these bolts back out, put the gasket in, bolt that back up. Forget to put your gasket in. Make sure your shift fork lines up. And also, guys, for your electronic wire here, this bracket used to be on this left driver's side. It now needs to move to the right side. Yeah, I'm just snugging it down a little bit, guys, with the tool, and then I'm going to go back and kind of feel it by hand. You definitely don't want to do it too tight. This is like an aluminum housing, I guess, and it would definitely break pretty easy if you put too much force on it. Alright, guys, all I gotta do is come out tomorrow, route the vacuum line. I'll cut the plug off, hook it up here, and we'll give it a test. Alright, it's the next day. We're here. I've come this morning. I cut the factory plug off, and they supply you with a couple of these little connectors here. I got those crimped on. I got some shrink wrap on there. I'll put them on one at a time here. It doesn't matter which way you put them on. Even though I have a black shrink wrap and a red shrink wrap, it doesn't matter which way they go. Let's get that tightened on there good, and then I'll show you guys the orientation of the cable. Okay, we got our cable all routed. You can see where it comes out right here out of the firewall. I let it come up all the way up here to the power steering pump. There's not really anywhere underneath the truck to let the excess hang down. So I got a nice sweeping loop that comes down. And as you can see, I put some, I had an old garden hose that I split in half, about 2.5 feet long. And I put that over this. That will protect it from the heat from the exhaust manifold here, and it'll protect it from any kind of rubbing that might happen to it, which it doesn't seem to be rubbing on anything. It flows through there quite nice. But they're very specific in their warranty. You have a 1-year warranty on this product, but they're very specific about the they won't warranty it if it's damaged due to heat or from rubbing. I'll take you under and show you what it looks like underneath. There it is underneath. You can kind of see it snake down along the frame right there. I got it wire tied to the engine mount right there. Then it comes down. It's all, you know, protected from anything rubbing it. Goes right over the top of the pumpkin there, and then over to our axle. Everything's out of the way, everything's clear. I had somebody bounce on the suspension, everything moves up and down. We got plenty of play and everything, so we're good to go. I also wanted to mention I forgot to put this little guard on right here. It's probably a good idea to have it on there, so I just took these 2 bolts out, put it on real quick. It wasn't any big deal. I just wanted to let you guys know not to forget to put your guard on. Okay, I unplugged my vacuum lines from the driver's side of the transfer case back there, and then I pushed the harness over the top so I could get enough slack to work on it. What we need to do now is we need to plug off our vacuum line that's coming back here to the transfer case. There's a purple line that goes, or I guess it's green actually is what it is. There's a green line that goes up, and that's the vent. So that can stay how it is. The only line we need to worry about, the black and the red, were for the vacuum actuator. So the one we want to plug off is the gray one. So, see if I can pull this apart here. Okay. Naturally, the cap they give you don't fit, so if you trim off this little end, then the cap will kind of fit on that raised portion right there. And what I'm going to do, I'll put a little tiny bit of blue RTV in there. Okay, I got some blue RTV in my cap. I'm going to slide that on there, push it on. Then I'm going to take my harness and put it back over the transfer case and plug it back into the switch so the crap doesn't get down in there. And that'll wrap it up for the test drive. Okay, here we are on our test drive. We're going to put the shifter in 4-wheel drive. And we're going to come up here. The way you want to engage this cable after you have your thing in 4-wheel drive, you want to get in gear, push your button in and pull back while you slowly pull forward, and it locks in. See, now our 4-wheel drive light is on. Let's see if we have some 4-wheel drive. Everything's locked in, guys. Everything's working good. And guys, to let off, put your shifter in 2, and then push in your button, push in your lever. The light goes off. We're back in 2-wheel drive. So everything works fine. Your cable might be a little sticky the first couple times you use it. Might take a little time to kind of work itself in, but as long as you have it routed and it doesn't have any major kinks or anything in it, you guys will be good. So hope this video helped some of you guys, any of you guys that were interested in the posi-lok, and thanks for watching.